Governor Carlin has joined us here. Governor Carlin, let me ask you, as we get ready to take calls, one of the things I thought about on my way over to the hotel today was the fact that you're a Democrat from Kansas. You're elected statewide. Senator Bob Dole is a Republican from Kansas. He's elected statewide. You're chairman of the National Governors Association. He happens to be Majority Leader in the United States Senate. On this farm problem that everybody's talking about today in town, and no doubt will come up during the Governor's Conference, do you all agree or disagree primarily on how to take care of the farm problems in the state of Kansas?
I believe there's more agreement than disagreement. The deficit, obviously, is, if you want to start someplace, is probably the most critical factor in the farm situation. The immediate credit crisis as a result of national policies through several administrations. But in addition, the need, we're discussing the 85 Farm Bill, the necessity to develop a long-range farm program in this country that will return some stability to an industry that's about to go under, literally about to go under in many segments of it.
What are the big differences? What are the disagreements over there right now? The Senate is meeting at the moment on this Saturday, and you keep hearing about a filibuster, but what are the where people disagree?
Some senators are taking advantage of the Meese appointment to leverage more emergency support. I think it's appropriate. I've been in the legislative process myself, as you indicated in my introduction, so I understand that aspect. The bottom line out there to the farmer, though, is in this whole tug-of-war situation, they need help. And the worst of all scenarios would be to get this whole thing caught up in a debate that doesn't get completed, that doesn't get finished. I mean, whatever assistance is going to be, let's resolve the differences and get the help out to the farmers in an efficient way. The program that was put out last fall during the election by the administration is just starting to reach the farmer, and not in any great numbers, and now they've talked about an expansion, a significant improvement, certainly not to the level that addresses the problem, but the process, the federal process, is so slow that what sounds good at a press conference, when it takes 6 months to reach the farmer, a few farmers to help them, we're in a situation where that kind of help is not good enough.
By the way, the National Governor Association is a bipartisan group.
Yes.
And the Republicans endorsed this report today.
Oh, yes. The report that came out today, I mean, that's a factual report that came out today, and any policy indicated in there is based on policy that's been adopted in the past by the governors in a bipartisan way. Jim Thompson, governor of Illinois, Republican, was chairman last year when that policy that has been made reference to here was adopted.
We're going to go to the phones, and for those of you who might hear some noise in the background, we're right in the same room where the news conference was conducted. So for the governor, if he has a hard time hearing, we'll try to interpret. Let's take the first call of the afternoon from Cypress, Texas. Go ahead, please. Hello, Cypress. Are you on the air?
Yes, Governor Paul Volcker, chairman of the Federal Reserve, testified before the Senate Monetary Committee this week, and it was very disappointing. If I'm not mistaken, the debt percentage of the fiscal debt of Japan as percentage of Japan's GNP is greater than ours. And they've only got a 7% interest rate, and we've got a prime rate of 11. And if you drop the interest rate by 4 points, you take 60 billion off the service on the debt, wouldn't you? I wish somebody would check out these figures because, as I understand it, what's really killing this country is the high interest rate.
Okay, Cypress, thank you.
I can give you a little picture of how this works.
All right, let's let the governor respond. We want to get as many calls in as possible, Governor.
Okay, you're correct. High real interest rates are doing more harm to the farmer, to the businessman, reducing employment, you name it. It's the #1 problem, but it is linked to the deficit. Now, I'm not aware of the statistics you make reference to in terms of Japan. The bottom line, agreed to position by a vast majority of economists and professionals, is that we've got to get the deficit down, and that in getting the deficit down, we can lower real interest rates. That is the objective of the governors and the objective of many in Congress, and we're trying, of course, to get more help from the administration and a more comprehensive approach to a budget that will lower that deficit and do so at a faster rate than what is designed by the Reagan administration.
Next call for Governor John Carlin is Hayes, Kansas. Go ahead, please, Hayes. You're on the air, Hayes. Go ahead, please. Hayes, Kansas. Go ahead. We can hear you.
Okay. Brian?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, please.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Governor Carlin.
Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about the situation that you just mentioned concerning the bipartisan effort with the foreign policies that you've just discussed here on this press conference. Is the effort going to be one that can stand the test of time? Because, as you said, right now it's going to be a slow process. And will partisan politics, just like any other type of thing that goes on in this world, can it hold up and be able to keep itself from crumbling into a morass of the farm programs that we have right now? Will this time be the last time that we'll be able to? Will this be the policy to stand up?
All right, Hayes, thank you.
Well, I certainly hope so. In terms of the governors, we've been able consistently for a number of years on tough issues to keep a bipartisan position going. As the chairman this year, certainly that'll be my intent. And I feel confident that, I know certainly in terms of agriculture, it crosses party lines. The governors of Iowa, South Dakota, just to quickly name two where we have Republican governors, feel as strongly about the problem and the need for the administration to do more and the need for the deficit to be dealt with as strong as anyone else. It is bipartisan. We intend to keep that effort as we work the Congress and the administration. The problem must be dealt with quickly, and certainly if it splits off into just a partisan political effort, we will not accomplish the objective.
Walnut Creek, California. Go ahead, please. You're on with Governor John Carlin.
Thank you, Brian. Governor, I've been watching the Stockman hearings, and he stated something there that has got me terribly confused about this farmer problem. He said that many of the farmers who are in debt trouble is a result of land speculation, which took place apparently during 77, 78, or during that time. I don't quite understand how somebody who buys another 500 acres for planting, even though it's at a high interest rate, who retains that land, grows crops, and then sells them, is in trouble today. In other words, I don't understand how this speculation gets a farmer into trouble. And I'd like your kind of an explanation of that, if you can.
Okay, I'll give it an attempt. First of all, there hasn't been that much, relatively speaking, speculation-type activity getting farmers in trouble. It does take place, and those who have are in trouble today because the land values are declining dramatically. And consequently, what was a good buy 5 years, 10 years ago is not a good piece of property today. And if one had to, and in most cases did, borrow significant dollars to make that happen, suddenly the banker is very concerned. But the real problem that Mr. Stockman does not understand is that the farmer out there, more than anything else, is in trouble today because of what has happened in Washington. The growing deficits, totally out of control, causing high real interest rates for all capital-intensive industries, including agriculture. A government that's not stayed behind agriculture, that's played politics internationally, grain embargoes, textile decisions, you go on right down the line, and the farmer has been abused and abused time after time by a federal government, and now finds itself in a situation where, yes, we've got huge deficits, we've got a farm crisis, and unfortunately for that farmer, and Mr. Stockman doesn't seem to care, the federal government is talking about going in with a meat axe and chopping the Department of Agriculture budget at a time when the farmer is more vulnerable than any time since the 1930s.
C-SPAN Special States of the Nation 85 coverage continues with a call from San Angelo, Texas for Governor Carlin. Go ahead, please.
Hello,
You're on the air.
Brian.
Yes.
I've sure enjoyed your program, and I have wanted to call time and again, have never called before. This farm thing really gets to me. I thought finally we're going to get this deficit down. And here they are. The farmers have been subsidized for 30 years. They're in worse shape. All they need to do is get the government out of it, the government out of everything. I do not understand. We will not get this budget down one penny. I had so many high hopes. in Senator Dole. But here he is. How many more billions have they put into farm now? And they're still holding them up.
Okay, San Angelo, Governor Carlin.
I don't think the comment is fair to Senator Dole for the simple reason I don't think a dime more has been put in terms of the recent discussion in the last few weeks. What one has to understand is that it was the government and the policy of getting out in the early 80s, for an example, that brought about the expensive PIC program prior to the election to salvage the agricultural vote. What this country needs is a balanced program, not an expensive one, but a responsible, balanced program that gives the farmer an opportunity to plan and adjust, gives the opportunity for the farmer to make a profit. The farmer's going broke, bankrupt in record numbers. Towns are literally dying in this country because of a federal government that's had an inconsistent policy and has forced a situation on farmers that is not of their own making. Oh, you can find examples of individual farmers who have mismanaged. This is true in any segment of our economy. But the fact is, it's been the federal policy and international events that have forced farmers into bankruptcy and not expensive programs or not support programs. A well-managed support program doesn't need to be costly, can serve the purpose of both the consumer and the farmer, but that's not been our policy in this country in the last few years. We've just let it swing back and forth from one extreme to another, and consequently, we've had a very unstable situation that's been very costly and will eventually be costly not just for the farmer but for everyone.
Governor Carlin and Governor Robb just released the National Governors Association State of the States report for 1985 in this room. This is a special Saturday afternoon call-in program. By the way, tomorrow the actual Governors Conference gets underway, and you'll see live coverage on C-SPAN beginning at 12:15 East Coast time, and that'll go until 2:45, which includes such presentations as that of Governor Lamb, who's chairman of the Task Force on Tax Reform. Report on the State of the States once again from Governor Robb. Later on in the afternoon, Governor Thornburg will be giving an update on the Treasury Federalism Study, and then special guests, a discussion of the FY86 federal budget, Senator Pete Domenici and Congressman William Gray. He broke his ankle, I think. Is he still going to make it tomorrow?
As far as I know, but I didn't know about the broken ankle.
Well, we had him scheduled for before the state of the National Conference of State Legislatures, and I think down in Puerto Rico, I think his wife did the same thing. I think she broke an ankle. A golf cart fell on her when they were down there. It's been a tough week for Congressman Gray. Anyway, tomorrow we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 governors total here. Open phones throughout the day. We invite you to join us. Seattle, Washington for Governor Carlin next. Go ahead, please, Seattle.
Yes, I'd like to find out some information here. We've been hearing about farmers and everybody else, which I sympathize with, but how about the minority businesses and small businesses? How is this Stockman presentation going to affect minority businesses with the SBA cutting back 8A contracts and procurement contracts and that type of nature? And I'd like to ask Brian, when will Congressman Mitchell, Parent Mitchell that is, be interviewing and giving his opinions on minority and small businesses' problems?
We'll give him a call and ask him to come on. Thank you. Governor Carlin?
Well, all programs, and this would include economic development programs that affect minority businesses, will be a part of discussion and potential action as a result of the need to deal with the deficit. I think what everyone, and I say this for the farmer because I'm not talking about protecting the budget, I'm talking about responsible cuts in agriculture in every area. We've got to understand what we're paying today for the deficit. There's a tax on people today for that deficit. So you've got to balance that with whatever pain and anguish might come from a cut. We're all going to benefit from lower real interest rates, from a balanced budget. The key is being fair, a fair, equitable treatment of the entire budget. That's why the governors feel very strongly, along with many people in Congress, including Senator Dole and others, that defense needs to be looked at closer than the administration has treated it, that entitlements need to be included, that we cannot ignore the two biggest parts of the budget and expect to get a deficit reduction program through.
For Governor Carlin, we go to Willoughby, Ohio. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm not a farmer, but I grew up in Ohio, lived for some years in California. I'm 80 years old. when you're talking about cutting the defense budget in order to help the farmers, do you realize that Mr. Reagan has a chance, maybe, to talk to the Russians and bring down the need for arms, get an arms control bill agreement with Russia? And if we can stay in a position that Russians think we're strong enough that we're worth talking to, we should maintain that.
Okay, thank you. Governor Carlin?
Well, I think our listener and all of us need, need to understand, when we're talking about defense, we're not talking about a cut. We're talking about a cut from a proposed increase, but no real cut. There will be an increase in the defense budget, whether it's a nominal or real or beyond. In agriculture, it'll be a cut. In many other areas, it'll be a cut. And that's appropriate. We recognize, in terms of our own security, that the defense budget is important. We do feel, though, that a sound economy is part of national defense, and that therefore, from a defense perspective, even dealing with the Soviet Unions of the world, that we need to strengthen ourselves in terms of our economy. Put a stronger economy together with maybe a more cut-down version of a defense budget, on balance, will be even stronger than letting the defense budget continue to go wild and continue to damage our economy. You've got to see the big picture. And when you do, I think we'll not only have the right defense, but maybe a move closer to a balanced budget.
By the way, at 9 a.m. East Coast time on Sunday morning, it's Ricardo Bordallo, who is the governor from Guam, a Democrat. Governor Schwinden of Montana at 10:45 East Coast time. 11:15 is Governor Arch Moore from West Virginia. 11:45, Governor Robb of Virginia. Governor O'Neill of Connecticut at 2:45, and we'll give you some of the others as our scheduled updates are provided throughout the day. You're from Salina, Kansas originally.
Smolin.
Smolin originally, yeah.
That's my
birthplace. You were born in Salina, Kansas.
Don't have a hospital in Smolin.
Where is Smolin?
Just southwest. It's right in the center of the state.
Where is Moscow?
Clear out in southwest Kansas.
We have a call from Moscow, Kansas next.
They would say out in God's country.
God's country. Go ahead.
Yes, this is Barbara Jessup in Moscow. And I have a question. I have a consumers group out here, and we're looking into the situation of mismanagement of the Sunflower Electric Company. This is a coal-fired plant. This also affects farmers because farmers use electricity. This plant has been funded by the REA, money, $500 million. And we're just wondering what in the world we're going to do to pay for this plant. There are very few people in southwestern Kansas, as you know, and now we are being really strapped with this debt. The plant has excess capacity. There are not enough people to pay for this plant. There probably will never be enough people in southwest Kansas.
Okay, Moscow, thanks for the call.
As you're aware, and I'm aware, this is before the Kansas Corporation Commission, and it's inappropriate for me to try to comment and speculate on what they might do. I'm aware of the challenge that they face, and I think for our national viewing audience, why don't we correspond in the state on this Kansas parochial issue? But it is a challenge. There isn't any question about it. Hearings are being held now, and your consumer group should continue to have input and express their concern.
Just time for maybe one more, maybe two calls. Is it Morehead, Mississippi or Missouri? Caller?
Morehead, Mississippi.
Mississippi. Good to have you. Go ahead with your comment or question for Governor Carlin.
Question for the senator there. I'm a young farmer from Mississippi. I'm 35 years old, been farming about 10 years. Very concerned about the farm program, and we're just wondering, why can't some of the credit be extended to some of the nations which are really asking for and pleading for some of the high quality products that we produce here, such as rice, for instance? Why can't they go ahead and extend the credit to these countries and just take the chance that they may eventually pay back some of this, pay for some of the products anyway, rather than just turning them down altogether?
Caller, let me ask you a question and give the governor a chance to answer in just a second. You're a farmer. You say you're 35 years old. Do you have much debt?
Yes, sir, I do. Not to the point that some of my neighbors are.
Are you
I'm a family farmer.
Are you looking to the federal government right now to help you under your circumstances?
Personally, as far as loaning me money, I do not have the idea of borrowing myself out of debt. I do not feel that that is feasibly possible. I do, however, feel an obligation from the government to more or less increase the prices of all of our commodities. With the embargoes and whatnot we've had over the last years, I feel that we are owed an obligation to get these prices up. The government has they bailed out New York City and Chrysler, and without any problem, then I don't see why not we can't have I feel like I'm obligated to from the government to have these prices increased.
Okay, thank you. Governor Carlin, your response to his question about credit?
Well, the credit situation does vary considerably. I mean, our listener here certainly represents a lot are in considerably more trouble. In terms of extending the credit to other countries, I think we need to be more aggressive. Some of our best customers today are countries that we worked with, that we provided through Food for Peace, products at literally no cost, or products where we extended credit. Now some of those countries are our best customers. Korea is an example. Japan, certainly today, considerably better customer than before. Taiwan, you can go right down the list. At one point, we had to help and assist them, and I think we need to be doing more to aggressively compete. We need to recognize that other countries, our competition around the world, their governments support agriculture in a stronger, more consistent way than what we have in this country, and that's why the farmer is, despite his efficiency and hard work, is struggling to compete.
Last call for Governor Carlin from Kirkland, Washington. Good afternoon.
Hello. Afternoon. I just want to raise a question. Why is it that the farm interests have not demanded that instead of food stamps being given out, which enables people to buy all sorts of stuff, and we know that they buy stuff they're not supposed to or good and so forth, why not direct healthful foods from the government storage bins to the poor, and those who really need the food will take it? I, by choice, have cereal in the morning. I have a combination of oatmeal with wheat, just whole wheat grains, and I think I'm getting a lot better nutrition than what I would get from a manufactured cornflakes or some other thing.
Okay, let me stop you there, unfortunately, because we're out of time. Governor Carlin, your final comment?
We do have some distribution of surplus food stock. I don't think to the extent that we should. I think given all the storage and the lengthy storage, the tremendous surpluses, we could do more here at home and certainly abroad. I think administratively speaking, though, we've come a long way to run a food stamp program pretty effectively and efficiently. There are some exceptions, I grant the listener. I don't know how far we'd want to carry it in terms of what he's suggesting, but for the most part, that's a well-run, well-administered program where those dollars are, I think, more effectively out there through this concept than maybe some previous concepts.
Recommendation to our viewers over the next couple of days, what should they look for during this conference? Is there something that's going to happen at the end?
It'll happen all the way through, starting with the executive. You're going to come back a little afternoon tomorrow. We'll kick off the conference with a meeting of the executive committee. We're going to discuss the budget policy. We're going to be dealing with the entitlement to defense area, a question maybe or two in another part of the budget. Those are specifics. So when we bring Senator Domenici on, for an example, he's looking for help and support because they want a more broad-based approach to dealing with the deficit. And if the governors can come through, and I'm certainly going to make the effort that we do this, with a strong statement that's comprehensive, that's detailed, that says we're willing to back you up back home politically. I mean, that's what we're really talking about here. They don't need our expertise to put the numbers together. What they need is our political muscle. We represent the same territory. You mentioned a while ago with Senator Dole, both Senator Dole and myself elected by the same people. When I'm back in Topeka, Kansas, agreeing with the senator and my congressional delegation, it makes it easier for them to make that tough decision. That's what we want to provide, that political cover, because the challenge is there. It's so great that we've got to set partisanship and political endeavors aside and join together to get it done. And we hope in the next 2 days you see the governors communicating our concern, but not just saying we're concerned. Here's how we're willing to help. Be a partner with the federal government.
Governor Carlin is the chairman of the National Governors Association. He's from Smolin, Kansas. He's a dairy farmer, and he is in his second term as a Democratic governor of the state of Kansas, and he is our first governor during this conference, 17 to go, that you'll get a chance to talk with. Thank you for your good questions as usual, and have a good day.